Well, I figured, seeing as how I got this working again, that I better do a couple of videos just to make sure there's a few in the bank there. So 6.5, part 1. 6.5 we're splitting into two parts. 3 examples today and a couple more examples on a different day. So 6.5, slope point form of the equation for a linear function. So you should be now well versed in working with, what did I do there? You should now be well versed in working with the equation y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form of an equation of a line. This being the slope, this being the y-intercept. Hopefully you are at that point now and comfortable with that. The slope point form of a line, again, because of the name, you can infer that it has something to do with slope. So here it says the equation of a line that passes through P, point P, which is x1, y1, and has a slope of m, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And that just comes from the rearrangement of the slope formula if you are given 1 point. So number 1 here, finding the equation of the line using the point and its slope. So use the slope formula, m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and rearrange into standard form. In order to do that, you're going to have to cross multiply. I'll show you that in a moment. So determine the equation of a line with slope -3 that passes through the point w -2, 5. So I'm just getting my notes set up properly here so I can make sure that I can follow along. Okay, so what we need to do, first of all, is start with this equation and the information that it's given. It tells us the slope, tells us a point. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my normal colors. Here we go. I start with m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I substitute in my slope, -3, and I substitute in this point, w, which is -2, 5, as x1, y1. So what do I end up with? I end up with m is my slope, m, -3, and my point, -2, 5. So m is -3 equals y2 minus y1, which is 5, over x2 minus x1, which is -2. I'm going to simplify the bottom of this first. I'm going to go -3 is equal to y2 minus 5 over x2 plus 2. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fraction over here, because I can put any number over 1, create a fraction. And when I have two fractions that are equal to each other, in order to get rid of the fractions, mathematically, what I would do is I would multiply this side by x2 plus 2, the denominator here. Because I multiplied that side, I would multiply this side by the same, x2 plus 2. These will cancel. The 1, well, the 1, I would multiply this by 1, multiply this by 1, and it's just a 1, so it just disappears anyway. So I really actually didn't need to do that. I was going to show you cross multiply, but I'll show you that in a moment. So mathematically, that's what this is. And this is going to simplify to negative 3, well, I wanted to change colors there, negative 3 times x2 plus 2 is equal to y2 minus 5. Now, I'm going to get rid of these little subscripts too, because they're just kind of bothering me a little bit, and we don't really need them. I get negative 3 x plus 2 equals y minus 5. And if I rearrange that so that I have y on the right side, left-hand side of the equal sign, I get y minus 5 is equal to negative 3 bracket x plus 2. Now this is the form of the equation in slope point form. Now I'll quickly show you, do I have room? Yeah, I've got lots of room. I'll quickly show you here, different color, the cross multiply method, and then I'll show you how we can rearrange that into slope y-intercept method as well. So I have, or I had, negative 3 is equal to y minus 5 over x plus 2. I'm going to create a fraction. I'm going to put this over 1. And then in order to calculate this out, I multiply this here and I multiply this here. So I end up with x plus 2 times negative 3 equals 1 times x minus 5. Then 1 is 1 times x minus 5. This is just x minus, or y minus 5. Here, I'm going to rearrange this to put the negative 3 in front, call it x plus 2, and then I'm going to write it with the y in front. And you can see I get to the exact same place. Y minus 5 is equal to negative 3 times x plus 2. Y minus 5 is equal to negative 3 times x plus 2. Slope point form. Now remember, or if we look at the formula back here, slope point form. This is the slope. These are the coordinates of a point given to you. Remember, and also one other thing is that this is minus. So the standard form of the equation is minus. If I wanted to check this back here, because this is a plus or a positive, a plus here, I may want to rearrange that and have it look like this. Just change that 2 to a minus 2, and now I have a minus because a minus times a minus is a plus. This will simplify back to this. So I haven't changed anything. I've just rearranged a little bit of stuff. And if we look, well, here is the slope they gave us, negative 3. And here are the coordinates of the point that they gave us. X has a value of negative 2. Y has a value of 5. So if we quickly just have a quick glimpse right back to where we were, negative 2, 5. Now we can take that equation, y minus 5 is equal to negative 3 bracket x plus 2, and we can rearrange that equation into y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept form. Why would you have to do that? Well, sometimes it's easier to graph a slope-intercept form equation. Sometimes it's easier to graph a point-slope form of an equation. Sometimes you're just asked, well, here's an equation of a line, rearrange it into slope-intercept form. Many different reasons. So in order to do this and rearrange it so that I get a slope-intercept form, y has to be by itself. And this portion here has to be all multiplied out. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to bomb this negative 3 into this bracket. That's going to give me y minus 5 is equal to negative 3x minus 6. And then to get rid of the plus minus 5 on this side of the equal sign, I'm going to add 5. Because I add 5 there, I add 5 here. Remember, constants and constants combine together. So I don't do anything with the 5 and the minus 3x because that would be wrong. That's apples and bananas. So I'm going to deal with apples and apples here, constants and constants. Minus 5 plus 5 cancel. I'm just left with y minus 3x. And then negative 6 plus 5 is minus 1. So now I can very quickly graph this, put a point at minus 1, and then count my slope down 3 over 1. So either way, you could very quickly graph both equations. Sometimes it's easier to graph slope-intercept. Sometimes it's easier to graph slope-y-intercept, or point-slope form. Okay?